This is the Maida Initiative, conversation without compromise.
But it's not only that. Even for European Jews, like Jews in the Gola, what we call diaspora, every year we used to say, next year in Jerusalem, next year in Jerusalem, next year in Jerusalem. They've never lost the attempt to go back to Israel. And while a lot of European, I don't know, whatever you would call them, European Jews or Jews that were banned in Europe have had to maybe were able to build themselves sometime better life until they discover it's all an illusion. But even American Jews today, a lot of them do not understand the strong need in Israel. But I do, because my family were never a first-class citizen. Never. They never were able to accumulate wealth and be secure with that. They were even every time they accumulate a little bit, it was taken away from them. And throughout history, in Arab countries, in Iraq, and everywhere, the Jews were from time to time, let's massacre 200 of them. So for no apparent reason, just because they were Jews. So for me, for my family, the establishment of Israel was the re-establishment of Israel was a life-saving solution, straight like that. And calling it European, a bunch of European being fenced back to Israel is ridiculous. It's distortion of history.
So let's talk a little bit about that persecution. So I think one thing that people miss on both sides here with Middle Eastern history is that they try and make it monolithic, right? So that sometimes people look at, Westerners will often look at the persecution of the Jews and Christians in the Middle East, and they'll say, okay, and they think it's a straight line from Muhammad to now of Jews and Christians being persecuted, and that's not the case. There's plenty of times when Jews and Christians have thrived.
100%.
But on the other side, you can also point back to these, wonderful, benevolent, intelligent, tolerant Muslim leaders, and then think it's a straight line from then to about 30 years ago. And that's also oversimplifying things as well.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
The persecution isn't something that's necessarily happening every year, but if it happens every 100 years
or 200 years or 100 years, is that enough? I mean, even if it happens every 100 years, that means that every grandchild ever is living his puberty or whatever through his grandpa getting hanged on a tree. Like it's not to say that my family always felt like they are second-class citizen will not be an understatement. Always felt this way. Even like when some of them were docked, because there are times, you're right, there are all of a sudden a different king comes or a different whatever comes, and prosperity happens, and they can be doctors and traders, because that's what Jews culture is, and then boom, it's been taken away again, or this illusion almost is being shattered again. But you're right. It's not a direct line. It's just something that I am telling you and the viewers to understand why Jews had the need to come back to their homeland. But it's almost obsolete of the case. Like they have a right also to go back to the homeland, just like Native Americans here has a right for the reservations, and almost every other nation in other people have a right for sovereignty in their state, in their homeland. The Jewish people deserve it as well, and recognizing it is a key point. To say that's not to say that it has to come, or the extent that it comes on livelihood of Palestinians, of the collective that call themselves Palestinians today, of the population that is here when Israelis are coming. So if we want to talk about that we can talk about who was here.
So let's then talk about talk about leading up to 1948, right? You've
Yeah.
got the Ottoman Empire, then the British Mandate of Palestine, and then how many Jews that made up the state of Israel were there
So
before that British Mandate, and then how many came in the British Mandate?
So
and
let's remember who's ruling during the British Mandate, before the British Mandate. It's the Ottoman Empire, right?
right.
Which Jews could live, but in many times they had to be a second class citizens. They had to pay many times the I
Jizya?
forgot the name of it. Yeah, and stuff like that. And there is obviously a big what happened during the Ottoman Empire occupation of Israel is that many of the land became owned by I don't know how the Ottomans used to call it, but I would call them Ottoman nobles or Ottoman military officers or whatever. So they owned the land, and that's actually hurt both Israelis and Palestinians, the local, because they are not Ottomans are not Arabs. Ottomans are Turks, right? They're Ottomans. They're not Arabs, and they come and they mostly own the land, but most of the population that comes is not, because it was a desert back then. It wasn't milk and honey like the Bible try to describe it. So it wasn't a very like I guess we can read the descriptions from 1917. And then everyone knows the Mark Twain description of the land, right? That is a desolated land in 1870 or something like that. In 85, I think there was like some kind of a envoy here that described the land mainly as desert. And I can give you. I can give you names if you want, but I don't know if that's the point. So most of the Ottoman did not live here. So the people that lived here was other citizens of the Ottoman Empire, which in majority were Arabs. The language that was controlling most of the land was Arab. But to say that the land was then even anywhere close to densely populated would be a complete lie. So I think the numbers are talking about probably a few thousands of Jews and a few tens of thousands of Arabs at the time in Israel, which changed a little bit during the British Mandate because the Ottoman Empire fought with the Germans against the West and lost, and the Ottoman Empire breaks down. At that point, most the Brits gets the mandate, right? On well, France and Britain and the rest of them gets all kind of places around the Middle East and everything. And the British mandate includes both Israel and the Palestinian Authority of today and Jordan, right? That's the British mandate of Assyria Palestina, or Palestine. The Roman name that was given to the land, again, has nothing to do with the native population, which means all the Jews in the land at the moment for Europe, for the British eyes, which I don't really care about the British eyes. They have nothing to do there. But for the British eye, yeah, for the British eyes, they, I'm sorry, but for the British eyes,
it's fine.
the British at the time, all right, has in their eyes, Jews, non-Jews, whatever it is you are, if you are in the area, you're called Palestinian, right? And that's where modern Palestine gets into like burned into modern notion because now it's also the West is and is dealing with it, and Britain, like every other Western country in the area, wants oil. They want to ship oil there, so they get the mandate of the area, and the mandate supposedly by establishing and they get the mandate until the indigenous population of the area is able to govern itself. At that time, even the Brits admits that that homeland is the Jewish homeland. I know that there are I don't know if we should go into the letters that were sent to Husseini and the Balfour Declaration. I don't know. The point is, even if there is a claim there, like whether or not there is a claim for a Palestinian population in the area at the time, at the mandate, I'm not talking about the partition plan yet, but at the time, even whether there is or not is irrelevant to the fact that there is no doubt that there has to be a Jewish population there. Like when they get the mandate, both the UN and Britain know, and it's in numerous sources, that there is a Jewish homeland there. So again, I don't really recognize the authority of the Brits to decide who has the land there or not, but because it's ridiculous to me. They come as a conqueror as well, but it's well known, I guess, that a Jewish state needs to exist there. That's before the Holocaust, way before the Holocaust, way before anything else happens. That's just because Jews around the world were longing for the homeland that was occupied by different empires throughout history, and right now it's getting a mandate by Britain. So hey, let's see, maybe the mandates, maybe the Brits will let us have our homeland back, because we cannot go to the Ottoman and ask nicely. They didn't care. So then the Zionist movement started. They started before, actually. It started in